Pig, Suey. Ta-da! Thank you. I've already tweeted about it, and I said I almost was saying Suey Pig on almost, but now I've done it. So, thank y'all. Thank you very, very, very much. We're gonna.
This is a Texas A&M girl.
Yeah, I got 3 Texas Aggies. Yeah, so yeah, my kids may forgive me for that. Yeah. Oh, listen, I was once speaking in Alabama, and it was right when A&M beat Alabama. Oh, I have to admit that was nice. That was nice. Okay, well, let's just get on zooming our way through, and in our last session, we're going to have some really fun things to do. I think you'll enjoy. But for now, all right, here we go. Talking about communicating. It's important that caregivers and family learn to recognize the red flags of ageism because ageism impacts communication. Now, I don't know if you've really thought about that and you think, oh, I don't do ageism. I'm not an ageist person. I don't say derogatory things and whatever, but it's in all of our minds and it's kind of ingrained in society. Ageism is any kind of prejudice, discrimination, mocking, stereotyping against someone based on their age. And ageism and building relationships between the 2 generations cannot coexist. So you cannot have a really good relationship with a care recipient who's older if there's ageism going on either way. And it's not always just on one side. I was speaking in North Carolina at a very large church. And I was speaking for multiple events, and the senior pastor, I'd spoken to the staff, and it was a large staff and whatever, and after that, then I was sitting in the lobby area, and the senior pastor was there, and we were talking about it. He said, I want to take you on a tour of our new youth building. I mean, they were so excited because they had spent, as he said, our church spent almost $1 million creating state-of-the-art youth building with unbelievable high-tech opportunities. I mean, it was cool. I will say, it was cool. Okay, I go back and I'm sitting in the lobby. Senior pastor goes to his office and he's doing stuff. And I'm watching as these older adults, and they were my next speaking group. They were going to have a little luncheon, and they're bringing in pumpkins and fall leaves because they're decorating their tables, okay? The senior pastor, same guy, came out and plopped down beside me, and he said, for the life of me, I don't understand why older adults want to spend so much effort on decorating the tables. It seems silly. Do you hear that? Do you hear that? He's a heck of a nice guy, but he did not even for a minute recognize the ageism that was wrapped in that. So let's remember, though, that ageism cuts both ways, and I bet some of you have experienced it. Laura Beck from the Eden Alternative tells a story. Let me read this part. She says, I was sitting in a local coffee shop, recently overheard a couple of women talking about ageism and the havoc it wreaks on older people. Working for the Eden Alternative, I was clearly high-fiving them on the inside, happy to hear this topic popping up during casual coffee talk. But then, almost in the same breath, the focused turned to the youth, and the words lazy and entitled and aimless were peppered throughout the banter. Ouch. How can we expect youth to appreciate the contributions of older people when we turn around and disrespect theirs? It only deepens the gulf between the two. So I would like you at your table to talk about a time when you felt slighted by an older adult because of your age. And how did it make you feel? Okay, this is especially, we need to listen to the younger members especially. So at your table, talk about where you've experienced that. Maybe it didn't happen to you. Maybe it's something that you witnessed. Okay, so take a few minutes. Okay, we won't do it table by table. Let's just do it whoever has a story to share. Would you stand up and share it with us? Come on, somebody. You have one here? All right, here we go.
Whenever I first started in healthcare, I was young. I was the same age as, not my current administrator, so please don't judge, but a past administrator's child. And so I wasn't taken seriously at all for anything I did because they were still kind of young and not maturing yet. And so I remember that.
Yeah, I bet so. I bet so. Somebody else who has one. Go.
I remember celebrating my 30th birthday because when your age starts with a 3, you get treated like an adult.
Mm. Yeah.
Although I will say this, I have seen that in the nursing home I work at. One day a lady who was around 80 was talking about some aches and pains and how difficult time. And the woman at the table said, oh, well, just wait till you're 90 and then you'll really know what it's like. I have to tell you. But I have been treated that way. Pat you on the head like you're stupid till you're 30.
Yeah.
And it's very, and I'm not usually nice about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. But that's how you were experiencing it, though. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody else. Okay. The University of Michigan did a research study of 50 to 80-year-olds, and 80% of the people polled said that they commonly experience ageism in their day-to-day lives. Okay? Everyday ageism, quotation marks, everyday ageism, takes place in daily life when we reinforce stereotypes or negative images. We dismiss older adults for not properly using smartphones or social media. Joke about losing memory or hearing or watching old people TV shows. Address an older adult as young lady, okay? Patronizing. That's from the Washington Post. I don't know if it's a deal around here, but around where I live, that 100 days of kindergarten has gotten to be a huge deal. And you see the kids are all dressed. Why in the world they settled in on 100 days being like 100 years old, I don't quite understand. You know, they could celebrate 100 days and doing other things about 100s without picking on older adults. These are two of the costumes that are sold specifically for that. So we got the old geezer and we got the granny. That, you know, there are things that we can laugh at, and we often do, but we need to stop and think about that. Over-the-hill birthday cards. I mean, I bought them, I've received them, you know, but we got to be careful. Progressive insurance commercials about how to avoid becoming your parents. Have you seen that one? Oh, yeah. Yeah, how to avoid becoming your parents. And we giggle and we laugh, but at the same time, we're reinforcing that. Many of us sit and laugh at these commercials without recognizing how damaging and dehumanizing the message really is. So, where do you see evidence of ageism in our culture, in your community, and in yourself? Okay, jot down your answers. Evidence of ageism in our culture, something we've not already talked about. In your community, in yourself. And remember, it can go both ways. It's not just old to young, it can be young to old, too. So where do you see it in culture? Yes? Okay. Oh, done with apps, don't want to do apps. Yeah. It's like if that's the only way you can do it. Or menus that are on codes now if they don't want to do a menu or whatever. I was listening to something the other day and they were talking about making fun of older adults who use the flashlight on their cell phone to read a menu. But I've done that many times. If it's a dark restaurant and you cannot see it, you know, that's what you do. I mean, it's like either that or pull the candle over, you know, so you can get a look at it. Totally understand. What else in the community? In the culture? Yes. Not everybody has that, yeah. Churches have had to really, you know, stop and think about doing everything online. You're leaving out people, you know, and we've got to think about how we can include and address both groups. Somebody had something over here. Yes. Right. It's not helpful at all, is it? Yes. Wow. Oh, yeah. 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 It's all we can do. You're good luck. Oh, within the church, I have a slide that I often use when I'm speaking to church leaders. And it's a boat that has no oars and it has no motor. And I said, what we often do is to put our older adults in the boat and we push them out and we wave and we say, good luck. And they have no way to navigate, you know. I think that's what I'm hearing from some of these. What else? What about in your community? In your community? Anywhere. What about at church?
You hear a lot of the elderly talk bad about the younger kids because they go to like children's church or they go back in the back and they think they should be out front. But you also hear the younger ones making fun of the elderly because they still open their Bibles to read and
Yeah.
they still do their Bible
Right.
studies, that they are the music that they listen to.
Exactly. Good descriptions there. What else? Where have you experienced in your community? Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. There's some awfully sharp 95-year-olds out there, exactly. And I know some of them. Exactly. What else? It's when we do those generalizations. And like I said, it does work both ways, just like she was describing the old and the young, you know. And so we've all got to be on guard. And then we're going to talk about in a little bit, what do we do with that? You know, the fact that we recognize it, what do we do? What about in yourself? Have you ever caught yourself going, ooh, that was a very ageist remark I just made? Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great example. My aunt was in her 90s, early 90s, and wanted to stay in her home. It was a beautiful home and lots of trees, and I understood if she'd been in, they had built that house as newlyweds. So that house meant so much to her, and she did not want to move. But then just was having, trouble falling and tripped on the hose trying to water the plants and broke this, broke that, all kind of issues. And finally did move into senior care. At which point she said, no, before she moved, she said, why do I want to move there with all those old people? Okay, she's 90-something, okay? Why do I want to move with all those old people? And then she talked about not wanting to use a walker or a cane because, Once she moved there and she got to know them, she's like, how did I ever think that? Why did you ever let me think that? But I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Where else? Who else has felt it within themselves? Or like you gave the example of, experiencing that with a father. Anybody? Okay. Ageism prompts older adults to think negatively about themselves. This is so ingrained in us. Even like that progressive commercial. I hear it and I laugh at it. I'm going, that is really not a good message. It's really, really not. But we all laugh at it. Older people who think they are a burden to others or perceive their lives to be less than valuable are put into a heightened risk of depression and social isolation. So what we think really does matter. The words that we use, the descriptions that we make and whatever, they really do matter. Those who had negative views about their own aging do not recover as well from disability and live on average 7.5 years less than people with positive attitudes. That's pretty significant, I would say. So, what ideas do you have to confront everyday ageism as a way to help others, especially older adults, to have a more positive outlook on aging? And what I really want to know is, would you speak up in a meeting? Have you ever spoken up in a meeting to say, ooh, or interactions with other caregivers, or things that older adults say for themselves. Okay? Talk amongst yourselves. What ideas do you have to confront that? It's happening, but are we going to solve anything if we don't confront it? Okay? Take a few minutes. Okay, who has one to share? Who'll share with us? A good one here? All right, you're on. Can y'all hear her from where she is? Is that okay? Okay.
So my mom has Alzheimer's. My aunt's been in rehab and hospital back and forth for over a month now. But my mom is also socially isolated with the Alzheimer's. She's home alone a lot. But she can't be patient enough to visit with my aunt in the rehab. So I discovered that I can take the dog to rehab. So my mom takes my dog around to every resident in the rehab and the nursing home, and she visits and talks to every single person there. They pet the dog. I have that one-on-one time with my aunt so that I don't have to worry about my mom not like losing patience. And I said I don't know how I discovered it's a win-win for everybody. Pet therapy, mom therapy, aunt therapy.
All in one. You did it. Excellent, excellent. Okay, somebody else. Come on. Got one.
I can remember my step-grandfather was in the hospital. He was like 85 or 90, and I was a nurse at the hospital, but I wasn't taking care of him. But I can remember I'd go by and see him every day and talk to him, and I would shave him. And he told me one day, he said, Linda, he said, tell Lita to come bring me a beer and I'll drink a beer with her or something like that. But he's long. He's already real sharp.
Has anyone, oh, yes, okay.
We were talking about the dog here, but in saying, another person in our group said it'd be good to take my grandkids with their dog.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I was recalling when we were in school, we would go like maybe to a music program at Easter or Christmas or something, and we were afraid of those places.
Yes.
And we'd walk in and see all those people in wheelchairs and it smelled different and we didn't interact with them.
Yes.
We just sang and we couldn't get out of there fast enough. So I think the more we can expose people.
Intergenerationally. Absolutely.
That's a lot of it, just making personal contact.
Well, and what's happened in our churches, and in society, it just kind of reflects that, is that we've done the silo thing. I mean, you may belong to a church that has all generations there, but then you have to say to yourself, are they building relationships? When I was speaking at Lake Junaluska in North Carolina this summer for an intergenerational ministry thing, and the question that I asked them, I said, okay, I want you to write down the name of 10 children or youth from your church, first and last name, go. And they just kind of sat there, and maybe one name and whatever. And so what out of that came out of that was talking about, number one, do you know them? And number two, how often do you start a conversation with them? Because if that's not happening, then it's not intergenerational. We can be side by side. We can be in the same pew. We can be singing the same song. We can be in the same fellowship dinner. And where do they go? All the kids are going to go sit together. That's natural, So if we're not intentional about bringing the generations together, every time my grandkids are with me and whatever, they all play violin, or the 3 oldest ones do. And so I take them on my rounds to visit and whatever, and they've kind of getting into it now, and what do they really enjoy it. But I had a Girl Scout troop call me, this is back again in the days of landlines, call me, the director of their group did, and they were getting ready to go to a nursing home, and she said, we're scared to death. And she said, somebody handed me your book, and we looked up your phone number, and we called you to say, what do we do, So there's that. And there was a youth director in Tennessee that he bought copies of that first book, Living with Purpose in a Worn Out Body, and gave it to his youth to read. Now tell me how excited they were to read Living with Purpose in a Worn Out Body. But he was very wise, because after it's an easy read, they could sit down and read it in 20 minutes probably. But what came out of that is that the whole thing was they were going to visit assisted living center across the street. And he wanted them to understand what's going on in the minds of these older adults. And the cool thing out of all of that was that they realized that both the youth and the older adults shared feelings of vulnerability, of being inferior, their bodies being inferior for different reasons kind of, but that they shared a lot of the same emotions. So you're absolutely right. The way that we're going to address it is through intergenerational relationships. I get concerned sometimes just at meetings and whatever, and it's, again, well-intentioned people, but like back to the minister and the $1 million youth and what, I'm wondering, did anyone ever ask them in their finance committee meeting, we're doing all this for our youth, and that's great. That's wonderful. What is our budget line for older adults? And I bet it was $0 or $200 or something very minimal, And so we just need to bring, older adults need a champion sitting in meetings and things like that. And so even if you're with each other and you hear somebody, make that statement, don't be afraid to say, let's think about that for a minute, because that's where it's got to begin, is with us, really. So learn to talk so the other generation can hear you. This is a story from my grandkids about communication. My 2 older grandsons are now 11 and 13. When they were about 5 and 7, I would say, I was staying with them while their parents were gone, and I could hear the 2 boys. They were playing, they were having a grand time, and before long, It was kind of quiet, and then the volume started building. And it began to build more, and I could hear them, And so the younger one finally said, the older one said, "You're not listening," to his younger brother. To which the younger brother said, "My ears hear you, but my heart just can't." Y'all, I stopped and wrote that down at that very moment, because I don't think he knew the wisdom that was wrapped up in that. My ears hear you, but my heart just can't. And I think that goes on a lot when it comes to older adults. Our ability to hear one another gets muddled by our different generational experiences. Prime example was back to my mother. Remember me telling you she was not a prickly person. So that was not her nature. But when she was prickly, I tried to investigate and find out what it was. Well, this was a time that she was prickly, and it was a Monday, and they had been to church the day before, and she was trying to tell me about it. And finally, what came out of that was that their church had hired a new music minister, okay? He was young, and that was all fine, and they did praise songs. That was okay, too, and as long as they had some hymns in there, all was good. But what really bothered her was that his wife came in carrying a big gulp drink from 7-Eleven. She not only came into the church carrying it, she came into the church late carrying it. Now, to my mother, who grew up in an era where the sanctuary is sacred, holy, set-apart place. We treat it as such. To that younger woman, Jesus said, "Come as you are. Just come as you are. I don't care if you've got a big gulp." These two generational things went like that. Who's right? Who's wrong? I think they're probably both right. Maybe both a little wrong. I don't know. But it gives you perspective on, that was really bothering my mother, and then why it wasn't bothering that young woman at all. That's what she had grown accustomed to. Oftentimes, the adult child or a caregiver might say something like, "Mrs. Jones, do you know that the milk in your refrigerator expired 2 days ago?" But what she hears is, "You don't think I can live by myself. You don't think I can take care of myself. You want to put me in a home." Two different things. I have to admit, my daughter came home. One of my daughters lives in Ireland. She came home, and it was holiday time, and she was cooking and whatever. And the next thing I know, who was talking about the spice thing? Was that you earlier? Yeah, about the spice. Okay. My daughter came in and had totally rearranged all my spices and laid out the ones that expired last year, because I don't cook that often and whatever, and rearranged some dishes and whatever. And I looked at her and I said, "Oh, this is my kitchen." And, I said, "I appreciate you doing that, but I wish you would have asked me first, because, I really didn't care that the cinnamon was next to the pepper. It didn't have to be in alphabetical order for me. It's kind of more like I recognize which one I need. I had the ones up front that I used the most, Made perfect sense to me." The thing was, and she totally apologized, and we laughed about it. But, I could understand. I got that little for a minute, and she was thinking she was doing a good thing. But to me, it was like, "You're messing with my stuff. You're messing with my stuff." So I want you to tell about a time when there was tension between you and an older adult as you tried to communicate. Oh, everybody should have something on this one now. Everybody. Tell about a time when there was tension between you and an older adult. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, who's got a good one? Who's going to share? Come on. Yes. Okay. Cause that tension. Who else? Who's got a story? Yes. I tell you one thing that I have discovered, and y'all can see if you agree or not. I've discovered that if an outsider makes these suggestions, it's a lot more likely to happen than if it's a family member. It's just that difference, yeah. Yeah. I know. That's who. Okay, who else got one? Yes. Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Right. No, but that's great, and that's the way to do it as a team. I mean, that's honestly, that's the best way. Yeah. Right, and you're not taking all the flack from that either. Yeah, that way. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes. Oh. Oh. Yeah. Oh, wow. It's out there. Anybody else?
She brought out, I'm sorry, that because we've kind of role reversed, like we're the parents, but we're not. They're still they're our mom and dad, but we're the one making all the decisions, paying all the bills, doing all that.
And I call it I'll caution people about this a lot, to the adult children, say, it's not a role reversal. As soon as you say that, they feel diminished. It's not a role reversal, it's a role shift. I took on different responsibilities for sure as I was caring for my parents, but I never thought of them as children, and that's an important thing to show that respect. I said, and think too, what 5-year-old built a business from scratch or raised 5 kids or something. So whenever I hear or see like the names of different events that they're having, parent your parent, and I'm like, no. And I understand what they're saying because you do take on responsibilities, but there is a difference there, I think, and it's kind of to protect us from thinking that because that older adult is not a child. It is not a child, and so we got to be careful with that. Okay. So let me give you a little backstory on this. This is kind of fun, and the family's given me permission to share this story because it resonates so true with so many people. When this is on the day that we were doing the book launch, so this was like April 2012. Back in the fall of 2011, we were shooting the cover for the book. There it is. And we were doing it at Lucy Mary Ann's home in Pass Christian, Mississippi, so to try to simplify things for her, and so we were doing it outside, and we were literally like holding up the backdrop over her garage door and whatever, to shoot this. And Robin had just flown in from New York. She literally was carrying that blue blouse from the airport and went upstairs to iron it and came down. And so, this is about as real as it gets, So we were shooting that. My publisher was there. I was there. Dorothy is the sister that's on the right. These are Lucy Mary Ann's 3 daughters. She also has a son who's the oldest. Dorothy's on the far right, who was her primary caregiver because she lived there in Pass Christian. Robin, and then Sally Ann on the left was a news anchor, lives in New Orleans. And they love their mother. They adore their mother, okay? But we finished shooting, the two, Robin and Dorothy, the two on the right, were there, along with Lucy Mary Ann, along with my publisher, along with me, and I can't remember who else. And the discussion was, once we were finished, about where we were all going to eat. We were all going to go out to eat. And so Lucy Mary Ann is seated on a love seat in her living room, like right there. Dorothy is standing on one end, looking this way. Robin is standing at the other end, looking this way. And they are having a conversation about their mother. Okay, they're having the conversation up here, and everything is she, her, she. And you had to know Lucy Mary Ann to fully appreciate this, but she put her arms out like this and she said, "Stop it. I am still the mama. Do not talk about me as if I'm not here. I'm sitting right here, and this is my life." Now, she had gumption to do that because a lot of older adults would not. They would just sit there and kind of simmer. You know what I'm saying? She was wise enough to go, "No, this is a teaching moment. I'm going to teach my girls. That's not a good thing." Now, you've got to know, they had good intentions. They were trying to simplify who was going to ride with who and where we were going to park and what place we were going to go. They were trying to handle the logistics, okay? They adored their mother. They could not have loved her more. They were trying to be helpful, but in their attempt to be helpful, they actually hurt her. Hear that. They were trying to be helpful, but in that attempt, they actually wounded her feelings because she felt she was being left out. She was being left out. How often I hear that same thing about older adults visiting doctor's offices, and the doctor will have the conversation looking in the eyes of the adult child instead of to the older adult, particularly if they are where they mentally can understand and whatever. They'll ask the adult child the question when the person's sitting right there, and they feel very diminished. It's done with good intentions, and I get that. But in doing it, we're really kind of furthering that whole dismissive attitude toward them. So don't assume that you know what is best or what the older adult is thinking. "Ooh, we're guilty of this a lot." We think we know what they want. We think we know what they are thinking. Talk with each other and try to make decisions together, even if it's as simple as moving something in the room. Even if it's as simple as moving a piece of furniture or moving a lamp or changing this, instead of just messing with my spices. Yep, I know. It's mine, as long as I can handle that, So seek to collaborate at every opportunity. Collaboration will not always be the most timely way to get things done. I hear you. And I think that, for the most part, is the reason that people don't seek to do it, because it takes more time to collaborate, particularly with an older adult who may have trouble, explaining what it is that they're what they want or don't want. But collaboration is the name of the game. This is kind of a fun thing. As I travel, And I've been so many different places and been to Scotland and to South Africa to speak and whatever. And so no matter where I've gone, if it's where I'm at an event where I have the adult children and the aging parents together at the same event, I love to ask two questions, okay? So it's kind of my own informal survey, but I think you'll find it eye-opening. I ask the adult children what they most want for their aging parents in this season of life, okay? I'll say, what do you want for your aging parent in this season? And the answers are grouped into categories. It's things about safety and security. It's things about a nice living environment and help with daily activities. These are the 3 top things where their choices tend to fit, okay? Now, I ask the same question to the aging parents, but about what they want for themselves, okay? What do you want for yourself at this season of your life? And their answers: to be respected and independent as possible, to be needed, to have purpose, to have deep friendships and relationships. Okay, look at these 2 lists side by side and tell me if you see a pattern. All the things on the left-hand side I call external, okay? They are things, the safety, the nice environment, the granite countertops, you know what I'm saying? The help with daily activities. And those are important. Nobody's discounting that. They are important. But look at what the aging parent wants. Those are inward things. To be respected, to have purpose, to have value, to have relationships. I was doing this for senior care that's in Waco, kind of a large one, and the director came up to me afterwards and he said, "Oh my gosh, I think we need to change our marketing strategy." And I said, "Well, I'm not trying to tell you how to, but it's different. It's different as to who you're marketing to. Is it the adult child or is it the aging parent? What are their needs? What is most important?" And again, this is very informal. This is not like a university study. This is my own study, just in my talking with both groups. Practice active listening. Active listening. We think we do a good job of this, but we don't really. Active listening conveys respect, empathy, and compassion. Don't speak while the other person is speaking. Oh, I have to catch myself because I want to interrupt, or I say, "Oh, yes," or, let them speak. Pay attention to their words. You can tell when somebody's paying attention to what you're talking about. You can tell they're looking in your eyes. Their body language tells you that they're engaged. And listen without formulating a reply in your head. So often we're trying to jump the gun. We're trying to, we're already coming up with what we're going to say in response instead of really listening to what they have to say. Acknowledge that you're listening by nodding your head, squeezing their hand, physically letting them know, "I'm listening to you." This is hard, and we are not really good at it, generally speaking. And then once they stop speaking, try to paraphrase what you heard them say. All of those things will go a long way in helping that edge in communication that we kind of need to smooth out the best that we can. Many elderly say they hunger for meaningful conversations with someone. Family members may stop by, but they have busy schedules taking care of work and other family members. They come to check on the basic needs, but do not take the time to sit and listen. And that's sad. I always had a saying. I had a friend that I would visit until he died back this summer. He had cerebral palsy and was just in his 70s. but had been on a feeding tube and in a nursing home for a number of years, as he was unable to walk and needed more care and all that. And one day I said to him, I said, Norman, I can't remember how we came across, it came up in conversation, and he said, you know what I love about you? I said, no. He said that you give me unhurried time. Unhurried time. And I wrote that down. How often do we give unhurried time? And I understand why. You've got schedules, you've got things to mark off that list. I get that. And at the same time, it could be the one thing that helps them more than anything, just to know that somebody cares enough to come sit knee to knee and just talk and just be, and they not feel like, oh, I've got to go do this. Oh, I've got to go do that. And we can influence our family members, and their family members. Collaboration, if we're going to collaborate, not only with older adults, but with team members, if you're like at home health or, if you're working in senior care, it takes collaboration. We had, there was an elder orphan in our church whose name was Barbara. Barbara's closest family lived in Canada. My husband was the executor of her will. Another, a woman, a friend of ours or whatever, was her power of attorney. And when we realized that she was eating beans every day, although she had plenty of money, but she was eating beans because I think she'd forgotten how to cook. And it was easy, and she knew how to open them, and she just ate beans. And, as we're in her house and we're seeing for this organized, once very organized woman, it was like hoarder's paradise. And realizing that we needed to do things to help her, to get her, she obviously was going into dementia and, going through all that with her, getting her moved, getting her home sold, all those things that a family normally would come in and do. But we would text each other, and with the activities director, the CEO of their, and we just say, Team Barbara. Team Barbara. Because it took all of us to help facilitate her care, to know that she was getting the best care, and that, if we were going to be gone, if I was going to be traveling, I would let them know. I'm going to be gone here. I've invited so-and-so to come visit and whatever, just trying to keep everybody in the loop. So how can we better operate as a Team Barbara or a Team John or a Team Sam or whoever it is, so that all the people that are involved in the care are on the same page and are trying to collaborate? And I'm not saying it's easy. I know it's not. Sometimes in an effort to help older adults and get things done, adult children and caregivers forget that the older persons want and need to be involved in the decisions about their lives for as long as possible. That's the Lucy Marianne, stop, I'm the mama. I don't care if we're just talking about where we're going to go to eat. I want to be involved. As the caregiver or adult child, never start a conversations with the words, Miss Jones or Mom, you've got to. Now think what happens. You don't like somebody to say that to you. As soon as I say, you've got to, what happens? You get resistant. We get very defensive. Don't tell me I've got to. Particularly for someone who's losing that sense of independence. And you're saying you've got to? No. Instead, say, Ms. Jones, Mom, what do you think we should do? What do you think we should do? Hear the difference? Ultimately, the decision may have to be made. I get that, okay? But involve them in that process. What do you think we should do? Things not to say to older adults. You've got to. You've already told me that. Oh, maybe they did. Maybe they told you that yesterday. Maybe they told you 5 times in the last 5 minutes. But it's not helpful to push back on that. Redirect the conversation to something else, but, don't, you've already told me that. You could do it if you really wanted to. Remember the guy who was walking with his mom, the Betty White story? That was his attitude. Mom, if you really wanted to be like Betty White, you could. Really? But I already showed you how to use the remote. Oh my goodness. This happens all the time. You know, it's like the thing, because they showed you one time how to use the iPad or something on your iPhone or the remote or this. You're going to have to do it multiple times. You can't show me just one time and I'll remember it, you know? But we're so quick to criticize them, saying, but I already showed you how to do that. Or if you're condescending, they're going to be defensive. I mean, you can just count on that. All those statements are very condescending, even though you may not intend it to be. But that's the way they come across, and you're going to get a defensive reaction. Effective caregivers, team planning is critical to the overall well-being of everyone on the team, the older adult, the caregivers, and the family members. The more that you can all work together, the better it's going to be. It's going to be less stressful for you. It's going to be less stressful for them. The better the communication, the less stress for everyone. And collaboration also involves trust. The older adult needs to know that you respect them. Would you like me to call you Mrs. Jones, or would you prefer something else? Oh, I've heard so many older adults just get defensive like that because that caregiver came in. I've heard this where they'll call them Mama. Mama, Mama, you know, and they're doing it maybe as an act of endearment, but it doesn't come across that way to that older adult. And maybe they don't want to be called Sue. Maybe they want to be called Mrs. Jones. Ask them, what would you prefer for me to call you? What shirt do you think goes best with these pants? Instead of, here are your clothes, what do you think? You choose. Look at these. Do you think this would be better with that? You know, give them their choice. Their decisions are so limited that the more that we can give them, the better they're going to feel. So provide choices and affirmation whenever possible. The more you, as a professional caregiver, understand the challenges and the joys of aging, the more you're going to be able to support the older adult themselves and family members too. So be attuned to the family dynamics as best you can. I know you can't control families. You just can't. But you can control certain things. What you can control, do it. Model for them clear, respectful communication and keep your focus on the well-being of the older adult. Learn more about the older adult's life experiences and challenges so you can be a joy booster. Joy Booster is one of my books, and when I was doing a radio show some years ago, when it first came out, the radio announcer kept calling it Joy Buster. And I was just killing me. I was going, Joy Booster. The whole point's to boost the joy, you know. He was not getting it. But you have a key role as a joy booster because there are things you can do each day to bring joy. Maybe ask the family to make a photo wreath that goes on the door. This is my mom. These are pictures of her from when she was a child, up on the top right, all the way through to that last picture that you saw when she was in her mid-80s. Now, what's the point of that? It's not just an arts and craft thing. Had it on the door because I wanted people who were coming in and out for her care to see that she was more than the person in room 204. That she had a full life of experiences. And then it prompts conversation, which is a beautiful thing. It's just a small little thing. If you don't have access to the pictures, then ask a family member, would you do this? I think it would be helpful. This is Barbara. This is our elder orphan I was just telling you about. And as she progressed through stages of dementia, this was taken actually not long before she died. Thankfully, we were able to go back in after COVID and all. We were able to go in and visit with her. And each time, because, obviously her memory was gone, except for long-term memory. So I would take photocopies. I just would run them off my computer of when she was a child or when she was younger. So this is a child of hers. She immigrated from Yugoslavia. This is a picture of when she was a 6-year-old child. Each time I would take that picture because she didn't remember that she'd seen it the time before. And she would, as soon as she opened it, I didn't have to say a word. And she would just break into a grin. She remembered everything about that picture. And there was another one with her brothers, and she could call them all by name, where she thought they were all still living, and, her mom and dad were down the street too. But she remembered who they were. She knew. Not only did she brighten when she saw the old photos, the caregivers reminded that she'd had a vibrant life. And this is one of the things I really noticed, because I would bring pictures of her on a motorcycle or when she was playing the accordion, and the caregivers would drop by and they would look and they'd go, "Miss Barbara, I didn't know, blah, blah, blah." A little thing, but it was a boost of joy. Ask the older adult for their favorite songs and artists from their youth and create a special playlist, whether it's your iPad, their iPad, the center's iPad, whose ever, I don't care, or on your phone. And when you're together, play it. These are the songs that were special to this person. I get this all the time from older adults. They'll say, "Oh my goodness, if they bring us one more Elvis, I'm just going to die." They love Elvis, but they get tired of Elvis and whatever. And if you ask each one of them, they got different preferences. One person liked classical music over here. This person liked marches. One of my friends loved big band and whatever. What if you just had a very simple playlist that this is Barbara's list, this is Norman's list. For older adults who miss going to church, a fun thing to do is to play a spontaneous game of Name That Hymn. Name that hymn. So you're playing instrumental versions of the hymn, and then ask them to name the tune, And they may share a special memory about that hymn. And I promise you, within 5 minutes, you're going to see joy. For those that, they hear, da, 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 and the next thing you know, they're going, "I come to the garden alone." They know, and and even those with memory issues and whatever, a lot of times they know those songs. They can pull those out. Use touchstone items. Everybody has touchstones. Touchstones are those items that you have on a shelf, in a drawer, in a cabinet. Maybe it's prominently displayed. It's something from your past that represents a special moment or a special relationship. For example, this is a touchstone for my life. This is a bell that had actually belonged to my great-grandparents, so it's from the 1800s. But my grandparents lived with my family when I was growing up. Since I was growing up in the days before tubes in your ears, and I had ear problems, if I was home from school, it was my grandmother who stayed with me. And one day she brought in that bell and she said, "Now ring this. If you need something, I'll be right here." Well, I'm sure I rang it for ice cream and who knows what else. But I felt very special, that bell. As my grandmother aged and she needed more care, we gave her the bell so she could ring it when she needed something. So I look at that bell, and it's not just about my grandmother, it's also about that circle of life. And just a heartbeat. I can look at that and just like that, I know exactly. Everybody has touchstones. And I hope you're thinking of your own right now. But when you're with an older adult and there's a special memento that's sitting out. I was walking with my mom from her apartment to the dining room where we were going. We were taking an outside route, and in the windows, different residents had different trinkets, lined up. And there was one particular woman's apartment that we could see. She had a gavel, so I assumed she'd been like a president of a club. There was like a miniature Eiffel Tower, and we thought she'd probably traveled there and all. And then there was this, for lack of better description, I'm going to say a cloth flat snake. It was like cloth that was wound around like a stake, okay? And it was there, and we're like, I wonder what that is. Well, this woman rarely got out. She had COPD really badly, so she didn't eat lunch there. She normally would come down and pick up her lunch and take it right back. On one day, I happened to run across her, and I said, I'm so glad to see you. Could you tell me what that black fabric thing is in your window? I said, that just got me all curious. And here comes this woman. She's slumped in her power chair, and she raised those shoulders back, and she broke into this grin, and she said, that's my black belt. I was a black belt in karate. I had only known her as that frail person sitting in that wheelchair or that power chair. There was so much more. Everybody has touchstones. When you're visiting someone, when you're in their room, if you spy something, say, tell me about that. Tell me about that. It makes them feel good, and you'll learn something too. If you know any blossoming musicians, like I was telling you, I'd take my grandkids to play violin. The one on the right, the girl on the far right is my granddaughter. She's in a ukulele group now called the Wimberley Wildflowers, and because they're taking ukulele lessons. When she's in town, we go take that ukulele. She goes to play the ukulele for some older adults. Think about how it would boost Mrs. Jones' spirits by asking them to come to her apartment or her home for a special recital for one. Now, I realize activities directors, they're going to organize certain music things and whatever, and that's great. But this is for that person that's isolated. Make it a recital for one. I hope all of you will do this because it is the most glorious thing. I've done this multiple times. A living nativity scene for senior adults. All of the characters are played by older adults. Our Mary was 90 years old. She cried when I asked her to be Mary. She said, no one has ever asked me to be Mary before. We borrowed costumes from the church. We retrofitted them however we needed to, work around walkers, around wheelchairs. The only one that I don't have a picture of her was a little grumpy because she didn't get to be Mary. She had to be a shepherd or a wise man or something. I told her to hang on to the following year she could be Mary. It was the most joyous thing. They didn't have to learn lines. We had a narrator, okay? And then we had people dressed in black, volunteers, to help them to their spot, if they needed help, or to help them backstage and whatever. Families came. There was not a dry eye in the house. When that all finished and we're singing Christmas carols. Try it. Baby Jesus was a doll. Baby Jesus was a doll. That was the best we could do that year. But be creative. Do it however you want. Encourage older adults to participate in a project to help other older adults. Ask family and friends to donate their old greeting cards, okay? And provide card-making supplies, cardstock, buttons, ribbons, glue, scissors, etc., to create new greeting cards. And then bundle 5 cards together and tie them with the ribbon and sell them, and the proceeds go to XYZ. I've seen this done. I was at a senior living in Pennsylvania, I believe, and they were doing it to go into the fund to help older adults who were running out of money and wanted to stay. But it was such a simple, they weren't just making things, they were making things with a purpose, going back to that purpose thing. Ask an older adult for the address of their childhood home or a special building from their past, and then pull it up on the street view of Google Maps, Google Earth, whichever, and let them take a look. Oh my gosh, I have done this so many times with different older adults, and we sit there and to watch their eyes light up when they're looking at their old home. And and you spin it around, they go across the street. That's where so-and-so broke his arm, or whatever. It just recalls memories. And at the same time, you're getting them in touch with technology in a way that's very comfortable, and they're excited about it. And again, invite them to tell you about their home or whatever. Create a daily story prompt and post it. Maybe it's on the wall, whatever. And both of you share your answers. So you're getting both of you. So that it could be, tell about something funny that happened at your wedding or at your prom or whatever. So they share and you share. Or tell about your first car. Or tell about a time when you won something, a race, a special game, an award, a prize. Again, the fact that you're asking a question automatically gives them value. The fact that you're listening to that answer. It may be the best thing that you do all day to help them. All right, I want you to go around and respond to this prompt. What's something you have longed to do but you've never done? Within your group, respond to that. Okay, let me hear your answers. Who's got a good one? Yes.
Well, I was a young child growing up in Mississippi, a little bitty small town. The only movies that ever came that I recall going to were either a cowboy movie or a safari, African safari. I've always wanted to go to Africa on a safari.
I hope you get to do that. You know what? I got to do it, and it never had been on my bucket list, but I got to do it. And now that I've been, I wish I'd had it on my bucket list. Yeah, it was really, really cool. Who else? Something you've always longed to do, but you've not ever done it. Ride a hot air balloon. I love it. What else? Yes. Oh, holding hands. Oh, well, is that sweet or what? Holding hands in the rain. All right. Yes. Skydiving. Anybody else have skydiving? She's braver than I am, that's for sure. Yes. love it. That is cool. I hope you get to do that as well. Somebody else. What was it? Learn to play the piano. It's like I always want to learn to play the guitar until my fingers start to hurt, and then I quit. You know, anybody else done that? It's like, oh, I'm going to do it, and then, oh, yeah. What a fun question to ask an older adult as you're interacting with them. You answer it, they answer it. Oh, I did it again. Here we go. How did the stories help you to connect with each other? Did you experience that? Y'all all wanted to travel, okay? Sometimes it's common things, or you'll learn something new about, or you go, just like she said that about the safari. It's like I got to share. I've been on a safari. It was really cool, you know? So, yeah, stories have a great way of doing that. All right, write 10 more daily prompts. This can be you can do it as a group if you want to. 10 more daily prompts that would be appropriate to ask an older adult as a way to foster better communication and a deep relationship. Okay? Do it as a group. 10 questions or 10 prompts. Tell me about blah, 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 or you can ask it as a question. Okay, pick out one per table and let's share. Pick out your best one per table. All right? Let's start over here. A first date or first job? Favorite vacation? Okay, a pet, where they grew up. She's covering a lot. Write them down. Good. Okay, here. Favorite car. That's a good one because some people really, their cars are kind of their persona, aren't they? Absolutely. How about here? How many kids? Well, how could you extend that? And instead of just getting a number, what else could you ask kind of as a follow-up to that? That'll get you in trouble. But you could ask, which of your kids was the funniest, or which one, or one of your kids a troublemaker was, with a laugh and whatever, that type of thing. Okay, what about here? Okay, favorite meal to cook for your family. That's a good one. Here we go. Their favorite sport. Good. That could be either participating or as a spectator, either way. Okay, here. Okay, favorite book, favorite movie, all good. Here we go. How about this one? Do you have a bucket list? That is good. She was talking about a bucket list and about travel. My friend John, that I introduced y'all to, I told you he was all over the internet, and he had wanted to go to Machu Picchu, okay, down in South America. He couldn't go, but we got him the virtual reality thing, and whatever. And then I had a friend who had been, and so she came and met us for lunch and brought all of her pictures and was able to tell everything, show him, explain how it all worked and all that kind of stuff. So yes, that's a great idea. Okay, to the back. Right. Kennedy shot. In fact, you could pick out any one of those and say, where were you? What was going on? Moon landing, absolutely. How about the back table? Oh, that's a good one. If you could have chosen a different career. Do you see how you're learning about them? You're making them feel better and you're learning at the same time. Back here. Stories from the past. So you'll instead of just saying, tell me a story from the past, though, try to make it something specific, because if you just say story, they'll kind of go, well, But if you ask them about that car, that job, that whatever, it'll take them there. So yes, good job. Y'all have what? Good one. Who would you have liked to met in your lifetime? Living or dead, either one. Yeah. Good question. But you get the idea, right? You get the idea. I was speaking at Church of the Resurrection in Leawood, Kansas. Membership is like up to 20,000, I think. It's the largest United Methodist church in the States. And they have a Silver Link ministry with hundreds of volunteers. And that is their group that goes out to either homebound or those in senior care. They take communion, they do a little worship service and whatever. And so I was a little concerned in speaking to them because I knew they were doing so many things so well. I thought, well, I hope I've got something fresh to bring and whatever. And it was so funny that this group of women, there are like 4 of them, they came rushing up and they said, this was so great. We learned something we needed to know. And I'm like, good, what was it? And it was when I told them that I wanted them to know 100 things about the person that they were visiting. And I said, I'm not talking about 100 things all at one time, but I want you to make that your goal, to learn 100 things about each person that you're caring for. It could be as simple as they don't like lima beans. It could be that jumped out of a plane during World War, whatever, a war or whatever. It could be that they've always wanted to travel to Machu Picchu. It could be that their favorite car was that 57 Chevy. They gave it a name, a Babe. Keep track of those. Because what happens when the more that you know, the more common ground you're going to have. And that common ground goes a long, long way in relationships and in building that, going back to that collaboration we were talking about, goes a long, long way in building that, okay? So, we're out of time. We're going to stop and be back here at 25 after for the last session, which is going to be fun. I think you'll have fun. And so, go.
plumber as a something. I ended up taking care of my mother for the last 6 years of her life. And I had a sister, and she was not very nice. So, Mom lived in South Arkansas, 100 acres of land, house. My sister lived near her, and pretty much dominated. My mother raised my sister's kids. She raised my sister's grandkids. And so when my mom got to where she couldn't drive anymore, things didn't work out well. Because mother was the doer for them, but they weren't the doer.
Ah, yes.
Can you hear me talking?
Yeah. No, 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 no.
So,
A watercolor set, that's my gift to you, and 2 postcards. It'll be coming to you. If you don't have them, there should be a cup of water. And we'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, if y'all are good, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and maybe we can sneak out a little earlier. How's that? Okay? I thought so. Just a few weeks ago, I was doing a news broadcast for WFAA in Dallas, the ABC affiliate, and the producer was there, the segment producer, and she knew who I was and what I talked about and whatever, and so she pulled me aside and she said, "My job is all about managing the stress that comes with live television. I've been in situations where we are covering a live shooter and tornadoes touching down throughout the Metroplex. But nothing, absolutely nothing, has been like the stress of being a caregiver for my aging parents." Hear that. Hear that. Whether you're a professional caregiver or a family caregiver, it can be very stressful. It can be very stressful. Back in 2006, remember I told you my father died in 2006, my mother died in 2008. Okay, in 2006, my dad, who had been in pretty good health until he was 89, but he was hospitalized, and within a week he died. So we're planning a memorial service, okay? My younger daughter is graduating from Texas A&M and moving to New York City. My younger daughter is getting married in California. Okay, listen to these 3 events, 10-week period of time. 10 weeks. And there are 3 big life events all compacted into a panini-style sandwich. I get that whole idea of the sandwich generation, although I wasn't having kids at home then, but I understand the stress that can go with all of that. I often compare it to that pendulum, desktop pendulum set, you know. Pull out the ball, mom has a fall, what happens? The ball on the opposite side takes off. My life is impacted when my mom's life was impacted. She had a fall, or it could be caregiver couldn't come. I had to step in at a time that I wasn't expecting to. And so it's like, you know, it is definitely true. It's a stressful season. My caregiver journey was with my parents, as I explained. And as I also explained, you know, they were very proactive. And they chose where they wanted to live. They made all their decisions. They had everything nailed down legally, financially, all those things that are hugely important, which took a lot of stress off of us kids. But even then, my life changed as theirs changed. When my father died, then I needed to go see my mother more regularly because she needed more care, quite frankly. And so where I normally would have gone to the 11 o'clock service at church, I started going to the 8:15 service at church so I could go to Sunday school and get to her place by 10:30 or so. So life changed. As hers changed, mine changed. And it's hard to stay balanced. I tried really hard, but it can be very difficult, even in the best of circumstances. And I ended up getting shingles over that, you know, thinking I'm handling everything okay, and then it's like, surprise, no, you're not. Both family caregivers and professional caregivers require problem-solving, decision-making communication with others and consistent vigilance over the care recipient's well-being. Easier said than done, I get. But best case scenario, we should all be working on that team. As they say, you can't pour from an empty cup. And we know this. We know these things. You know, we know we're supposed to exercise. We know we're supposed to eat well. We know we're supposed to meditate and pray. We know we're supposed to journal our feelings. We know we're supposed to go outside. We know we're supposed to listen to music to calm ourselves. And then COVID happens too. Extra stress. Hats off to all of you who all was working in caregiving during COVID. Hats off to you. Extra stressful. This is Barbara I was telling you about, our elder orphan. Elder orphan. The one who had, the closest family was Canada, okay? She's in memory care in this picture. And we're trying to communicate with her. And we're required at that point to have masks on outside. I mean, you know, we're still all trying to figure out the whole thing. And we're trying to help make sense. And the Bluetooth thing for her was just so confusing. You know, they tried to have a phone inside and do the Bluetooth, and it just was not working. So I began making piles of signs. And I would hold up the big signs, "Hi, Barbara, we just went to wherever to visit the grandkids." You know, and then the next one would say something else, you know, just things. And she could read them and she would respond. But everybody was having to pivot and think about how are we going to do this. We wanted her to know we were there, so when we get there, we take down our masks momentarily and put them back up so she could see us. So everybody's having to pivot. I want you to write this down because you're going to need this. If you don't need it now, you're going to need it. Survival mode is supposed to be a phase that helps you save your life. It is not meant to be how you live. When you're having a bad day, I want you to go back to that quote. We are not intended to live in a survival mode, but that's the way many of us operate. So I want you to rate yourself 1 to 5 on how well you care for you. How well you care for you. 1 is not well at all. Self-care is almost always the last thing on my to-do list. Or all the way to 5, I take excellent care of myself. Be honest. Write your number. Anybody have a 5? 4? A couple of 4s. 3? 2, 1. So most are 3, 2s, and 1s. What makes self-care so difficult? When we know we need it, it's what makes it difficult? You had something? What was it? Time. Where do we find the time? One more thing to add to the schedule, right? Guilt. Expectations of the other person you're caring for. They think you're not there enough, and you're thinking, oh my goodness. No, yeah. Oh, well, okay, yeah. That too. If you know it's important, why is it so hard to do? Knowing all that you should do to take care of yourself isn't the same thing as being able to do it. Okay, I get that. Self-care takes work, be it getting your day behind you to get to bed on time, planning, shopping for, and preparing healthy meals, or keeping up with an exercise routine. Yep. When you're tired and perhaps most in need of self-care is exactly when exerting the effort for anything can feel like an especially tall order. Yep. Even if you know it will help you feel better on the other side. Even if. Acknowledging this reality can help you be realistic and a little more gentle with yourself so that you can look for compromises and solutions that will better fit with your energy level. So take comfort in knowing that you're not alone in the struggle to do self-care. All right, think about your day as a caregiver. Write down 5 strong emotions that you experience. In a given day, 5 strong emotions, what would they be? And then after you write them, I want you to identify what triggered them. 5 emotions, what triggered them? Okay, let me share one, and maybe this will help trigger. When my parents were living in senior care, we had caregivers coming part-time, but I would do grocery shopping. Now, their meals were provided, but, they had a little kitchen, and my dad particularly, my mom really she was done with cooking. But Dad liked to experiment, and he liked certain things, and so he'd given me a list. And, this store for this store for this, because they were on special, you understand, whatever. Okay, so, I'm handling it and whatever, but it was a day that I had to be back in Rockwall at a certain time. I had an appointment, had to be back, and I'm running out of time. And I'm looking at my watch, and I'm thinking, I do not have time to go to that other store that's 4 miles away to pick up the Pecos cantaloupes that he wanted, because he really loved Pecos cantaloupes. And not everybody has Pecos cantaloupes. So I made the mistake of buying another cantaloupe. And I took it back to the apartment, took all the things up, set it out on the cabinet, and I'm putting things away, and Dad comes in, he looks at it, that's not a Pecos cantaloupe, in a very sharp tone. He said, I told you Pecos cantaloupes. And y'all, I just had to bite my tongue. I went out to my car. I put my head on the steering wheel, and I bawled like a child. Why? Because I felt like I was doing everything I knew to do. I was giving it my best, and yet I let him down. Now, I stopped and thought about, he's frustrated. He doesn't normally snap at me or whatever. That's not his style. And so for him to have done that, there was something else going on, just like we were talking earlier. I gather it together. I go back upstairs. As soon as I open the door, he apologizes. I'm so sorry, But for that moment, it stung. It stung. Why did it sting? Because I felt like I was giving it my very best, and my best wasn't good enough. When have you experienced something similar? Every day. Every day. Tell me about it. Unappreciated? Unappreciated? And that your world's supposed to be all her too. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody else. What were the emotions? If you don't want to tell the episode, what are some of the emotions you felt? Yeah. Oh, ouch. Yeah. Yeah. That's hard. It's hard. Anybody else? You had somebody? Yes. Yeah. Not hard. Yeah, hard, for sure. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think everybody's experienced it, and you may be experiencing it daily, and you need to be aware of that. I mean, I know you are, but in thinking of it in terms of what is it doing to your psyche? You know, how do you protect yourself from that hurt, that woundedness? I was at an airport in Denver, and it was wintertime, and there was a group of women that came in, and while all of us had on boots and coats and whatever, they had on flip-flops. And it was obvious they were headed someplace warm. They did not even bother to bring in their coats or whatever. They had on tropical clothes and whatever. And I'm sitting in a restaurant. You know how close the restaurant seating is in an airport? And I'm listening to their conversation. And they're all women, middle age, I'm guessing in their 50s probably. And one of them saying, "Oh, I'm so glad I got to come. I wasn't sure I was going to. Mom was in the ER on Monday, on Tuesday. It was all iffy, da-da-da-da. I'm just so thankful to be here." And another one saying, "My dad backed up into the mailbox. I've been telling him he's got to quit driving. You know, he ran over the mailbox again." And they're having this conversation, and I'm listening. And then I thought back to how many times where I've spoken at senior living communities, and I'll hear the older adults say, "Oh, I wish my kids were here to hear this because they need to hear this." And it dawned on me, I thought, they're talking in their own groups. The older adults were talking to other older adults and, you know, complaining and whatever, and the adult children were doing the same with their own friends. But I'm thinking, are y'all talking to each other? Going back to kind of that intergenerational thing we were talking earlier about. So are the generations talking with each other about aging? So that's when I wrote Voices of Aging. And on one page, and these are kind of hot button topics, some of them. On one page, it's like crawling inside the mind of the adult child. On the opposite page, it's like crawling inside the mind of the older adult on the same topic. So let me read one of these to you. Okay, this is the adult child. We're crawling inside the mind of the adult child. "I wish my mother understood that there are only 24 hours in my day. I try to be attentive to her, but she forgets that others need me too. I have my own family, friends, and neighbors, a full-time job, all demanding my time, church responsibilities, and other commitments. Every aspect of my life requires a piece of me and my time. There's just not enough of me to go around. I wish she could understand that I'm doing the best I can. Instead, she'd rather control me with guilt. If only I called her more often. If only I hadn't moved so far away. If only I cared as much about her as I do my friends. If only I were as loyal as so-and-so's daughter. If only I'd remember how she was there for me when I was a child. I hear her voice and my own nagging insecurities in my head until I feel like a total failure. I feel obliged to defend myself to her, and I say things I shouldn't. I know that caring for an aging parent requires sacrificial love, but I need her to understand that I'm trying to do my best for everyone. And in juggling so many responsibilities, I am losing myself. Help me, Lord. Inside the mind, same topic of the aging parent. I hate the thought of becoming a burden on my family members, of growing frail and struggling in a body debilitated by time and disease. I worry about becoming a drain on their goodwill. Oh God, I don't want to complicate their already busy lives or deplete their patience. Still, there are moments when I feel I am alone, as if I'm the last item on a long to-do list, as if no one has time for an old person like me. Lord, forgive me if I become clingy or manipulative in this season of vulnerability. When I feel alone and unwanted, remind me that you will never leave my side. When I am anxious, grant me peace. When I am disappointed, allow me to encourage others. Oh God, help me to remember what it was like when I was younger and had countless obligations pressing down. Close my mouth if I'm about to speak a critical word of judgment. May I live in gratitude for my family's sacrifice and best efforts. Mold me into a role model for growing old with grace. And then there's a moving forward together thing. But it dawned on me how we do tend to talk to our own, which makes sense, but we're not always talking to each other. So why is self-care so important? 8 reasons. Self-care helps you perform at your best. By maintaining a healthy balance in your own life, you're better able to help others. You know this. It's still hard to do. Caring for yourself lessens tensions between you and care recipients. You know this too. Whenever you get tired, you're not giving your best. You're not able to give your best, and tensions are going to flare. 2, self-care supports the overall well-being. It's more than drinking plenty of water, exercises, eating well, and socializing with friends. It leads to an inner peace, even in the midst of chaos. 3, self-care can help maintain self-confidence and self-esteem. When you recognize that you are also a priority, you will feel an increase of self-confidence. 4, self-care makes us more aware of our personal needs. Contrary to popular belief, none of us really are superheroes with magical powers that are endless. Every caregiver is susceptible to burnout and exhaustion. Why do we try so hard to be superwomen? We do. Self-care helps us to be resilient. The better we care for ourselves, the more resilient we're going to be. Resilience building is huge. When we do things to honor ourselves mentally, we are in a better place to take on challenges and stressors we all inevitably face. Physically, if we are carrying stress in our bodies, it can manifest itself as muscle tension, hypertension, etc. Having an outlet helps with all-around wellness. Self-care can help you feel well-rested and energized. Even small ways of showing self-care can give you renewed energy. Start small. Instead of growing frustrated because you can't seem to eat 3 nutritious meals in a day, start by intentionally eating 1. 1 meal a day where you totally eat healthy. Self-care doesn't take a lot of time. It's hard for us to believe. I know. Instead of scrolling through your social media posts for 15 minutes, set the timer on your phone and practice self-care. Start small. Yoga or meditation, write in your journal, all those things we talked about earlier. We know what we're supposed to do. Self-care can be a social activity. Spending quality time with good friends can be a critical part of an effective self-care plan. It's part of why I wanted y'all to interact with each other today. Because you need to hear each other. You need to share each other's stories so that you know you're not alone. You're not alone in all this. In a moment of stress, do something to distract yourself. Say your ABCs backwards. Oh, y'all, try it. I did not get very far. That is hard mental exercise. Look out the window for objects of a certain color. Look out and say, I'm just going to look for all things that are yellow. On my drive home today, I'm going to look everything that's yellow. Massage your earlobes. Try something new, something you love from your childhood. There's a group I know of caregivers that are getting together to do tap dance. Good for them. Good for them. Play that guitar. Maybe now's the time we can finally do it. Or listening to audio tapes. Yeah. Get creative. Creative exercises, not limited to artistic, okay? We're not talking artistic here. But creative exercises are beneficial to a caregiver's overall well-being. Creative thinking is about looking for multiple solutions. This pays off in your everyday life, whether it's caregiving, whether it's being a mom, whether it's being a daughter, looking for multiple solutions. Flexible thinking sharpens the mind, stimulates both sides of the mind. Improves your mood, fun, out-of-the-box challenges, status quo, relieves anxiety and stress. Combats depression, helps you to process emotions, boosts your immune system. Okay? Now we're going to get to the fun stuff. I want you to look at this, and I want you to tell me what else it could be. I want you to name 5 things this could be. Now, hang on. I want you to think of it to get you started. Think of it as if you're up and you're looking down on it. Thinking if you're down and you're looking up at it. Thinking if you're this way and you're looking straight on, what might it be? For instance, I could see that could be that I'm in traffic and that is a truck in front of me that is carrying either pipes, something that's round, where there's 4 pipes and I'm right behind him. Write down 5 things this could be. What else could it be? Go. No wrong answers. Go. Give me your best. Shout them out. 2 eyes and 2 large nostrils. Great. Somebody over here. What do we have? So like the eyelets where your shoelaces come through. What else? Panda feet. Very good. Yes. What was it? Oh, the dice. Yeah. Absolutely, good one. Buttonholes. Windows. Traffic pattern. Roundabout, yeah. Some days feel like that, don't they? What else? Come on. Y'all, if I were doing this, and I used to do creativity or consulting things for businesses, I would be expecting you, I'd say, I want 100 answers. Go. Because here's the deal. The more you think about that, the more you're going to see. It could be swimming pools. I'm looking at 4 swimming pools from the air. Jewelry beads. It could be what? Toilet. Okay. See, y'all are getting it. You're getting it. A UFO, yeah. That's the thing. There are no wrong answers. Okay? When you push your brain to think, even in fun, you're practicing being flexible in your mind. And that's what we're after, okay? See, I said 20, so I'll let y'all off easy. Name things you do not want to hear on an elevator. Go. We're going to go for 20 this time. Go. What was it? We're falling. What was it? It's hot. Okay, wait. One at a time. Wait, right here. Someone clearing their sinus. Gross, yes. I think I'm going to be sick. Yes. Passing gas, okay. Yes. The alarm going off. I think we're hung. Oh, this baby's coming fast. Yeah. Come on. Keep them coming. Baby crying. Help. Come on. What was it? Okay, no, I don't think anyone did see me. Okay. What was it over here? Crashing noise. Are you seeing? Y'all are getting it. You see? It's not just the sounds of something bad happening to the elevator. It's like, what people are going to say, all those kind of things. You're getting it, okay? Honestly, if you'll trust me on this, if you have kids, do it with your kids. It's great exercise in the car while you're driving home, and it can get so fun and what makes the time go. And instead of arguing, it's kind of getting them to focus on something. It's practicing using both sides of that brain, okay? All right. It's a one word at a time story. This is at each table. And this is how it's going to begin. And then you're going to take turns, and all you get to add is one word each time, okay? All right, this is how it's going to begin. The crescent-shaped moon spilled a sliver of light onto the wet sidewalk. One person start and then go around the room. You get one word to continue that story. Go. I'm hearing too many ands out there. Somebody got to put a period in and start a new sentence. Okay, do you hear the laughter? Do you hear the laughter? It's a fun thing to do. Again, you can do it in the car. You can do it around a table. It's so simple, and yet it brings laughter. It brings joy. It's practicing that flexibility in your brain. Okay, one more. How are these two things alike? Okay? Each person is to give one answer. Go around the table 3 times. So each person's going to give 3 answers, but go around the table. How are these two things alike? They both are blank. Go. Don't give up. You can help each other. Talk about it if you need to. It's all right. Has anybody made it around 3 times? Good. Okay. Give me your best. I want a best answer from each table. Best answer. Here. Swish and swish. Okay, good. Swish and swish. Swish on the Nike shoe, the fish goes swish. Okay, good. They both have eyes. Yeah? They both have tongues. Does it have tongues? Do fish have tongues? We'd have to look it up, wouldn't we? Okay, here. They both stink. Good one. Okay, here. They both have neon colors. They both have patterns, okay? That's okay. That's all right. That's the disadvantage of being toward the end, okay? Back table. With a net. Okay, so you're taking a step further. So the net's associated with the fish and the net. Okay, good. Excellent. Here we go. They both have air holes. Okay, here. They're both going somewhere. See? Oh, I missed y'all. Neither can talk. Something as simple as that. But it makes you think, it makes you laugh, it loosens you up, and for a little bit, you're not thinking of whatever tense situation you were just in. Okay? All right. It's a different kind of tension. This is a fun kind of tension. All right. Okay. You have on your table, every person should have their watercolors. This is for you to take home. Okay? My gift to you. You should have 2 postcards that are watercolor paper. You can paint on either side, whichever one you prefer. You do not have to paint anything that's up here. I only put these because these were ones that I've done. The one of the birds I've always liked because, and truly, y'all, I'm not an artist. I Google doodle art easy. Okay? And there are tons of things you can look at. You can do it on your phone right now if you want to. Pull it up, you know. If you want something with pumpkins, put doodle art pumpkins and see what pops up. Okay, but I think the bird one I just like because it reminds me of caregiving and the whole team concept and whatever, how we need each other, build on each other. But then there are just some flowers that I toss in and whatever. I want you to pull out those watercolors. I do have some felt tip pens up here too. If someone wants a felt tip pen, like sometimes when I'll draw it first, or you can use a regular pen. You don't have to use that at all. You can just go straight to watercolor. I don't care if this is yours to do. So I want you to take some time and I want you to paint both of those postcards. Your choice. Doodle art, simple, easy, whatever. If you want to Google it. What? Oh, you didn't get water? Oh, okay. They missed out on the water here. There should be water on your tables for the rest of you. There should be cups of water so you can do your paintbrushes. Does everybody else have water? If somebody wants to play some music, that's fine too. Remember, this is not a contest, so don't compare yours to somebody else. This is just you. Well, there you go. Okay, we're going to take about 5 more minutes. You don't have to get finished. It's okay. Okay, we're going to stop. That's okay. All right. Hold up your artwork and turn it around so that people can see it. Hold it up. Come on. I see pumpkin. Oh, that's fun. Eyes. I see flowers. I see pumpkins. Rainbows. Love it. Love it. Love it. Trees. Y'all, we need to do more of this. We need to do more of this. Now, you can take your card if you've not finished, once you finish it and whatever. Yeah, hopefully they'll dry in the next few minutes, and you send them to somebody. You know, I make bookmarks and send to my friends and whatever. You know, it's kind of a therapy for me. It makes me feel good. Send something to them to brighten their day. All right? There are probably 20 or so more watercolors. Listen to me. Up here, I want them to be gone. I want you to take them. I want you to give them to a resident, a client, a friend, as a joy booster. Do something to boost their day. They're right here in this box, okay? So they're for you to take. All right. I told y'all I was going to try to get us finished early. All right. I love this, and I want you to listen to it carefully. Okay? Home stretch here. It may be that when we no longer know what to do, we have come to our real work. And that when we no longer which way to go, we have come to the real journey. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The impeded stream is the one that sings. I want you to think of that image, that stream, as aging. And think of all the things that are in that stream that impede it from just flowing smoothly. There are big rocks, little rocks. All kinds of things. What would be those challenges that an older adult has to face? The fast change that's going on in their world, the way that culture looks at them, the fact that they're losing mobility, they're struggling to find purpose. All of these are those boulders. And your job as caregivers, I think, is to help direct that water down, to help remind them that it is the water going around and over and under the obstacles, finding its way, making the music on the journey of aging. I think your goal, yes, it's as a caregiver. Yes, it's to help them with physical things. Yes, it's all those things. But over and above everything else, I hope and I pray that you're taking the job of helping them to make music with their lives very seriously. Because that is where the joy comes. That is where your purpose comes, is in helping them discover theirs. Some of you had asked about my books. I think most of them are available on Amazon.com. You can go to my website, Missy Buchanan, not very creative, MissyBuchanan.com, and they're listed on there. Cokesbury, Upper Room Books, Christian Books, Barnes & Noble, they have them. I don't know of physical stores anymore that, it's so hard to know what they have in physical stores. So probably your best bet is online. If you're interested and you're on Facebook, I post every morning by 5:30 or 6, Texas time, something about aging and faith. And if I do have a personal page, which is Missy Buchanan, but if you want to go to agingandfaith.Missy Buchanan, You just like it. You don't have to wait for me to like you back and all that stuff. It's just a community page. It's a great place to connect. I love to hear from you as to what, if you've tried something, if you do the nativity scene, I want to hear about that. I would love to have a lot of photos of those that have done the living nativity with your senior adults, or whatever it is you're doing. I want to hear. A heartfelt thank you, because I know you have a hard job. I know there are many things that you could be doing that are easier. But it sounds like you are called to this because you have a heart. You have a heart for older adults and want to walk alongside them on the journey of aging. And Lord knows that we need people to do that with us. We all do. It'll be our turn one day. And I hope someone's there to walk alongside me as well. So thank you for this opportunity to speak to you, to put the heart in what we're talking about, to be willing participants. I appreciate everybody who spoke up and gave some answers. I think it's important that we engage with one another. And now I think it's time. There may be some drawings. Don't tell, I'm letting y'all out early. It's Friday afternoon. Oh, thank you. Thank you.